The tune to Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's a hump of the week, Wednesday morning. The Smooth Breakfast is what you're listening to. Ayokunmi here. And it's that time to get into the papers. Yes, take a look at the headlines making rounds at Have Me Talking, Have You Talking as well, and has the whole Nigeria talking. This is Freshly Pressed, an interactive session where we take the stories and, of course, get analysis as well as your contributions, which we love to take, to read, and, of course, get your thoughts on. You can do that as always by sending those messages to us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981 0809 444 0981. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Drop a comment there as well. Definitely be taking it as we get along on the show. My analysts are in this morning to give perspective on the stories, break it down, and of course, give us clarity and something to think about. Lakunle and Devoe are in. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Good to have you in.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Devoe. Good morning, everywhere where you're listening to us this morning. Um, let's have a great
Yeah,
week.
All right, Devoe, good morning.
morning world, morning AY Lakunle, Lagos, Eku budget to Wara Wara.
And Devoe never ceases to crack me up on Wednesday mornings. But anyways, thank you for that nice intro there, Devoe, because we're heading into the punch to start our sojourn this morning. And it's all about loan requests and so on and so forth. And looking at this story right now, like I said, coming out of the punch. Now, the Senate will approve the $2.2 billion loan. That's about 1.77 trillion naira loan request of President Bola Tinubu today. Now, this request submitted by the president is part of the external borrowing plan outlined for implementing the 28.7 trillion naira 2024 budget. So, Devoe, we are here right now. Can you give us a bit of clarity on this and what we should be expecting or what this all means?
Well, basically, there's good news, there's bad news. The good news basically is that the rubber stamp Senate is already set to approve the $2.2 billion loan request that the presidency is pushing for. That's about 1.7 trillion naira. So let's just say they need 2 trillion naira to fund just between now and the end of 2024. Um, Now, some have argued that this doesn't mean much, that it's small money. But what we need to understand is that the government has literally borrowed the bulk of what it requires to fund the 2024 budget. If you look back at the 28.7 trillion naira budget, we didn't meet up to our revenue targets. Okay. Therefore, revenue target is not equal to the increase in naira based on devaluation. Many people make mistakes on that because it's put in naira, it's put in dollars. But if your naira is devalued, it means you need more naira. Now, um, the problem here is that as we go into 2025, the presidency has put forward a 47, let's say a 48 trillion naira budget, which almost looks like an increase from the 28 uh 30 trillion 2024 budget. But it's actually not an increase. Some people say it's 50% above what we have today. What has happened is, if you look at the assumptions, first of all, Naira has been devalued, okay, with the removal of subsidy and the harmonization of FX. Therefore, you need more, um, what do you call it? You need more Naira to make up dollar. So in the 2024, I think the Naira to dollar projection was at 700, 750, which was up to about 800. But now it's being put at 1.4. But you all know that at the market rates now, you can only get dollar at 1.718. And with these plans, it's sure to go to 1.92 thousand. So many people ask, is it realistic? I mean, oil and gas, okay, sorry, crude is currently selling at 71. You know, it's hovered between 71 and 75 this year. Now they've put a projection at $75. When we know a Trump presidency is coming on board, that obviously is looking at ramping up oil production for America, meaning they might not be buying our crude. So is it a wise decision to be at 75? They've put oil production at 2 million barrels per day. We know much, even though they've touted that they're doing 1.8. If you add the also condensates to that, we're roughly around 1.1, 1.3. So we don't even have the money to be able to ramp up to 2 million barrels. So the real questions here is, what is the government doing? Why are we building a pie in the sky? Eh? Pie in the sky simply means you're building castles in the air. And when you say this is how far you want to go, at the end of the day, you will still have to meet up with the gap. How do you meet up with the gap? So you can see this borrowing. The more we borrow, it becomes more expensive for Nigerians. However, there are creative ways that government can raise funds without borrowing. Okay? Take, for example, now I just want to say this, starting from the one the CBN is doing currently, which is the green bonds, the euro bonds, the diaspora bonds. Yeah, about $500 million, some going to about the tune of $1 billion to $2 billion. Those are creative ways of raising funds. However,
Right,
the
right.
point is the 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 federal government has to raise it at a high interest rate. Many of them are going at 8% to about 15%. Okay. These high interest bonds are very attractive to the external investors because in their own countries, their own bonds are at 2%, 3%. So it's easy to say, Nigeria has a highly interest rated bond. But the point there is that it puts heavy weight on Nigeria because if you don't make the money back, if you borrow all that money and you're not able to produce, get productive, exports, grow local capacity, at the end of the day, you are putting a knee to the neck of the Nigerians' revenue capacity. And here we've not even discussed the corruption index. Most of the bonds that have been borrowed, where did the money go to? Sometimes when they discuss GDP to debt ratio, they say, oh, Nigeria is actually very low. We can borrow more. No, that's not true. When America, Europe, Russia, South Africa is on 50 to 100%, the point is when you go to those countries, you can see the infrastructure. You can see what they use their money for. It's easy to tell that the money that they borrowed is fueling the industry in those countries. So in the long run, it will make back what they need to pay back. So my
Devoe,
issue here is,
Devoe,
yes, please.
looking at everything that we set up until this point, I know that we can have this conversation for the entirety of this whole day and not probably finish it. But what I need to know to run up on this particular story is how concerned should the average Nigerian be, bearing in mind what is in the works here?
We should be very concerned because the more dollar rated borrowing that we do, it puts pressure on the naira. Because even though it's if we get it right and dollar
Right,
comes
right,
into the
right.
country, you would notice that the naira would not go down because you won't be able to see where that dollar is going to. And
Hmm. All
that's
right.
where the problem lies. This financing that we do in this country, it's voodoo economics. Most times this money comes in and it doesn't go to where it was targeted at. Then
All
at the
right.
end of the day, if the naira exchange goes to 2000, cost of living price crisis, inflation hits the markets and we cry even the more.
Hmm. That is something that we definitely need to be thinking about, and we will be keeping our eyes peeled on this to see how it plays out, and we'll keeping you updated as well. Lakunle, let's jump into the Vanguard and take our next story, which is equally of great importance as well. The chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, that's the NDLEA, that's Brigadier General Buba Mara, retired, has urged President Bola Tinubu-led government to declare a state of emergency on drug abuse. Now, he made the call while charging Nigerian elites to key into the whole of society strategy by the NDLEA to curb the scourge of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking in the country. Now, for anyone who knows what's been going on in Nigeria, it's undeniable we have a serious drug problem across board. Either your hardened substances, even your over the counter prescription medication, there is a serious drug problem in Nigeria. And the NDLEA boss has said a state of emergency should be called concerning that.
Um, we can never talk enough about um, this matter, right? Like you said, from simple, or rather, don't let me call it simple, from what we assume to be regular drugs, maybe 20, 30 years ago, if you come down with malaria fever and you take the 10 tablets of chloroquine in the 4-2-2-2 regime, you will be okay. Um, 5, 7 years ago, we started to hear something about what they call what's it called? Resistant malaria or malaria resistance to something, some form of resistance to that that chloroquine treatment of malaria, right? Now then we came up with the artesunate, multi, whatever, and then we came up with all of that to continue to treat malaria, for example. The basic problem here was that almost everybody ailment has the same symptom: a fever first, a headache, but there's an underlying problem. Many of us thought that, okay, the problem is once you have a fever, it is malaria. So we abused it. We have that problem with antibiotics today as well. Because if you have a bout of running stomach or anything, everybody runs to get an antibiotic to use, even though it's not an antibiotic you need to treat whatever it is that's wrong. So that is from the simple ones. Then from the bigger ones that we talk about the big substances all over the place. In admitting that there's a problem, I think that Brigadier General Marwa had done one of the things that needs best to be done. He's spoken to the elites of this country. It's at a Lagos Island Club event that he said this. I think that majority of this problem, if we can get our elites actively involved in the campaign against drug abuse, I think that will be like 50% solving the problem. Take a look at the average Nigerian man or woman in the age between, say, 24 and 34. It will be hard to find 2 or 3 of every 10 that does not have some form of, whether it's on prescription drugs, whether it's on all these drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's even tobacco or nicotine or something. It is there. Before we came up, we are talking about where some offices they create smoking areas, they allow that, and they don't allow, and all that. The glamour that we have put into the use of some of these substances. I remember growing up, there was this advert about a certain brand of cigarettes that the cowboy rides into the sun. There were a lot of adverts. I dreamt growing up to go and learn to smoke because of that advert. We have taken a lot of things for granted. Right. We are losing a generation to this thing. And we cannot just be talking about it in the mouth. It is one of the places where government is doing its part. The people, parents, we must be able to guide our children right. Children, you must ask questions about these things. Is it right to do? Should I do it? When should I do it? How should I do it? Do I need help? Where can I find help? Those are the conversations we should have. We should not treat this matter as something that people should not hear. It has happened. Okay, so a child that is hooked on drugs, do you keep the child at home? Do you seek help to get the child treated? So these are the questions, these are the conversations that we need to have as a people, as a country, as a government, and that we must find a common ground to treat all these things well.
Well said, well said.
You didn't call the name of those drugs, though.
Deliberate.
Arizona, Colorado, cannabis, ganges, crystal melt.
How did you know the names of all these things, Devoe?
So that people understand what Marwa was referring to.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back here, we're talking about some foreign affairs issues, and I'm bringing that to your doorstep. They will keep tuned to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Number, like Devoe said, today we're in California, tomorrow is Arizona, the next day is Colorado.
Squishies. You know squishies.
Devoe, Devoe,
They were.
you've been in the jungle for too long.
They will call one edibles.
Edibles is the one that they put
And they put like cake or
cookies,
brownies. They call it brownies.
brownies.
And there's edibles, there's brownies.
Ayo, why is it in your head?
She knows all those things now.
Oh, don't you know them? Don't you know them? We're going live, bro. Welcome back to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's 48 minutes past 7 a.m. on a hump of the week Wednesday morning. Ayokunmi here. We're taking a look at the papers and, of course, analysis and your contributions as well. Please send your messages in to us on WhatsApp on 0809-444-0981. Also join us on YouTube. We're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Devoe and Lakunle are in, still taking a look at the stories and, of course, giving their analysis and giving us a different perspective to things. Let me sneak one or two messages in here. Yemi from Marina says, I'd like to know, is there a difference between a rubber stamp Senate as said by Devoe and a lobbied one? Can a Senate truly be rubber stamped under a civilian government? God bless Nigeria. Yemi is wondering there. Who is talking to us here? Dio says, Olami Lekon says, Beautiful Nubia said in his song that it's money that we know. We do not look at character. We look at faces and not look at competency. That is why ignorant men choose. Really, really, Olami Lekon, you need to choose your words very carefully here. Yes, I understand that you feel a certain way, but please let's reword this so I can read it on here. Thank you very much. Sammy says, also analysis as always. I'll tell you how the dollar will drop to 300 naira to a dollar. Create a rumor that the US is changing the color of its currency. Partner with the US not to debunk the rumor. And guys, I promise you, all the dollars kept in the rooms will flood the market. I wonder. D from Ikeja says, the Senate will surely approve the budget. After all, it's the budget they are going to use to enrich themselves, buy luxury and limited edition cars, buy property around the world, travel the world, and so on. It is guaranteed that we will not breathe. I mean, we're told that we need to let the poor breathe. I don't know. But anyways, Devoe, let's talk about this story right here. And as I mentioned earlier, talking about foreign affairs matters, and we're diving into the Daily Trust. Now, 13 months after President Bola Tinubu ordered the recall of Nigerian envoys, he's yet to appoint new ones, according to reports from the Daily Trust newspaper. Now, since he recalled the envoys on the 2nd of September 2023, Nigeria's 109 diplomatic missions, comprising 76 embassies, 22 high commissions, and one consulate have been without full diplomatic representation in the rank of ambassadors. Why is this happening, Devoe?
Well, I don't know what's going on at the presidency because they literally have over 1,500 positions to fill. They've not done more than 300. I'm really wondering whether they're waiting for the end of the 4-year tenure to appoint these ambassadors. And the implication is, like you said, at the 109 diplomatic missions and 76 embassies, 22 high commissions, they are running headless. Headless meaning currently you only have the charge d'affaires there, and the charge d'affaires are like lower ranked, and they're not enabled to, in terms of diplomatic protocol, they're not enabled to deal with the foreign secretaries of the different countries that they exist in. And this is an issue. So you can see just by way of bureaucracy, we have shot ourselves in the foot. Now, the problem was that this administration, that's the Tinubu Shetima administration, had recalled the current set of ambassadors in all our embassies upon starting. That was in 2023, and they hadn't replaced them as yet. And the issue was they should have even had a list of replacements pending or even before they recalled those that were working, because it weakens our foreign position. Now,
Right.
we've always said that Nigeria has been weak on foreign policy. It's just unfortunate because foreign policy is your strongest leg to grow your nation, because no nation exist or operate in isolation. As you can see, we're trying to raise money. Sometimes you might not get that money internally. You have to talk to international bodies. It's not even enough to truncate the world in going for different conferences and forums and meetings. What you do is you have your contingents, your teams, your foreign diplomatic teams in those countries that continue to do the groundwork to ensure that the bilateral relationships between Nigeria and whichever country works out in the long run. Two, Nigerian citizens who are in those countries also need support. And most times, Nigerian citizens, if you don't know, are being treated very badly in many countries simply because foreign policy, our foreign embassies are not working effectively. So it's a real shame, even if we don't feel shame in this country, that our foreign policy is at its weakest. Now, let's not even talk about all the big countries around the world. Like currently, the president is at the G20. Our neighbors here, in West Africa. Nigeria used to be the big brother. Now we are the small cousin. Because when we cough or we raise an eyelid, any nation will say, yes, sir, Nigeria has spoken. Now you can see the likes of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali looking at us and giving us the middle finger simply because we took the wrong side when we should have supported them when they were trying to separate from their colonial masters. So I really weep and cry, and this shows you that this administration does not take foreign policy serious. If they did, check other countries. The foreign secretary or the secretary of state is the most powerful and influential member of any cabinet because that person is on a daily basis talking back and forth with different nations. It's not photo ops that we require. It's not visits by the Indian minister or going for foreign conferences. It's a day-to-day work and ensuring that we create value for Nigerians to ensure that our country is lifted out of this poverty situation.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
And by the way, I'm also gunning for an ambassadorial list. That's why I'm crying like this.
At least you've said the real cocoa behind the story right now. I guess you do. All right, let's talk about some security matters. And this one is a story that is of quite big interest, bearing in mind the incidents that have happened in the last couple of weeks in the energy sector. Now, a special squad of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, that's the NSCDC, yesterday neutralized 59 bandits who had ambushed them in Kaduna State shortly after conducting a patrol of the National Grid installation in Shiroro local government area of Niger State. Now, we know that we've had issues where these bandits or terrorists, as I think they should be called, have vandalized installations in those areas of the country. And the NSCDC, a squad of the NSCDC actually neutralized 59 of these bandits who had ambushed them. I mean, on one hand, yes, it's a good thing that we have our security outfits patrolling these installations and trying to make sure that these bandits or these terrorists do not have the upper hand. But ambushing them, they have a lot of gall. It won't be the first time anyway.
Let me first start by commiserating with the command of the NSCDC and the families of the men that are missing in action. At least there's still a little bit of hope. If it is missing in action, we're talking about
7 officers.
7 of them. Let me commiserate with them on that. Let me also congratulate them on being able to neutralize 59 bandits. But the bigger picture here again is this, that you have a wound that is heavily bleeding, then you put a band-aid on it. Is it the bleeding you want to stop, or you want to close the laceration itself by putting a band-aid on it? That is the problem that I see here, and that we need to find a solution to. It is unfortunate that of the 639, about 640,000 square kilometers of land that is Nigeria, more than half of it appears to be ungovernable. Large swaths of land, of space, where people can assume themselves to be governments on their own, create taxes, write roughshod over fellow citizens, and the best we can do is to react and then report it in the newspaper the way we have done in the last 15 years or thereabouts. Now, when this bandit, I think it was a sitting governor that said we should not call these people terrorists, that they were bandits. And we have fashionized it to make it look like it's normal. And then the things that we didn't bother about before, who bothered about where electricity installations were in Nigeria before? Now we're bothering about it. We are creating a budget for some people to be touring and be ensuring that these things are safe, when the ordinary solution should be that we should provide the agencies that the Constitution has empowered to provide us security with equipment, manpower, and training to do their job. Today, Nigerian police force is the only one in our Constitution that's empowered to secure the internal, to provide internal security for us. We are 220 million people. Nigeria is about 640,000 square kilometers. We have only 450,000 policemen. Do the maths. How many policemen per square kilometer do you have? 640,000 and 400,000 people. Do the maths. 200,000 people and 400,000 policemen. This is adequately not enough. We need to solve that problem first. One governor, I think it was Katsina or so, Katsina or the state to its left, that would be Sokoto. Yeah, that should be, yeah. Was saying a few months ago that there's a particular local government in their state, they have only 7 police officers.
Within
what can 7 men do in a local government that is possibly about 500 square kilometers of land? Right? So those are the real issues here. Now, this group of NSCDC people that went around, they were from Abuja. They were not in Niger State. They were not in Kaduna State. They were a special force created by the office of the commandant of the NSCDC to be touring electricity installations. And that's why when they crossed from Niger into Kaduna, they got ambushed. So you see where the problem is. Even the NSCDC itself does not have enough personnel either in Kaduna or in Niger to do the job. They have to send 71 people from Abuja to do that work. So in my mind, these are the things that our National Assembly should be speaking to. The Police Service Commission should be pushing to have more men recruited. We're talking about how many Nigerian youth who are not gainfully employed. This is an opportunity. This is a place where we can easily fix them, provide this training so that these things don't happen.
Right.
Let's go on.
But it's luckily got to a point where he came short of words. I mean, we talked about these things at different points, and yes, it has to be more of action than words at this point in time. Let's do messages. Time has absolutely flown by this morning on Freshly Pressed. It says it's absolutely clear that the economic policies that this government are not working. Hence, the need for more borrowing, which continues to increase the sufferings of the masses. God help us. Was talking to us here. Adegboyega Adediji says Nigeria at this juncture needs a fixer, a strategic thinker, and planner in the likes of the late Obafemi Awolowo, Latif Jakonde, and so on and so forth. If budget intervention isn't taken, the incumbent president will run down this country, and the country will not be able to recover again. Truth be told, the incumbent president doesn't have what it takes to revive the nation's economy. He keeps borrowing, and borrowing. Right, I need to shorten that message, but thank you for your thoughts. Tony from Marine Beach says, we're in a siege with this kind of attitude of our leaders. All they can ever think of is oil, borrow. This one way economy and idea is a recipe for disaster. The future generation, not to talk of the enormous problem it poses in the present. All right. Barrister Danakuda says, I agree with Devoe. We are not getting it right as far as our foreign policy direction is concerned. And Eddie Murphy says, so sad. We Nigerians thought the immediate past administration was the worst that would happen to us. Now we know better. Imagine not having ambassadors and high commissioners till date. And this is Don Kelvin. He says, the truth is, Nigeria doesn't want to secure any installation. During and immediately after the elections, we had drones patrolling remote areas of this country. We have the capacity to secure installations. The use of manpower to secure that vast space is just another means of money disappearing on provisions for the special task force. And Fabian says, prevention and management of drug abuse requires a multidisciplinary approach. People need to be taught to manage stress in a positive way and educated on the consequences of taking such drugs. More enforcement is required in clubs, on the streets, and in schools to prosecute those who sell them. The youth, those in entertainment, and other stakeholders should be more involved in advocacy. These are discussions we need to have, and we'll definitely be doing that right here on your Love Music, Love Life station, Smooth 98.1. You have to call in the morning on Freshly Pressed. Lakunle, Devoe, thank you so very much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me. Devo, see you in the jungle.
All right, thank you.
All right, have a great morning. Thank you all for sharing your messages with us. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. Smooth Breakfast will continue. There's more great stuff to come as we get into the locker room at 8:15.
Freshly pressed or Smooth 98.1.